Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. I'm here at the All Things Comedy podcast studio. I got some of the lights figured out, but it's not fantastic lighting, so we'll just figure this out. I'm here with one of the co-hosts from Struggle Session, Leslie Lee III. Leslie, thanks for doing the show.
Thanks for having me on.
So I like asking this with a lot of people because I sort of know my own journey into getting into independent media. What brought you into this? What made you decide to start doing this, and how long have you been doing it?
So before I did politically, I kind of got into it with pro wrestling. I had my own independent pro wrestling website. I used to write about, local pro wrestling, for international pro wrestling in Japan, stuff like that. And I started that like maybe 5-6 years ago. I eventually fell out of that, and then with 2016 happened, everybody had to start talking about politics. Yes. Then I started talking about politics more online, and I met this guy named Jonathan Daniel Brown, who's an actor from the film Project X, and we started interacting online. We were two alleged Bernie bros, even though he's Jewish, I'm black. We were two white Bernie bros, and a few months after, the election happened, all that went down, he contacted me and was like, I kind of been thinking about starting a show. And I had kind of wanted to start doing something again as well, because I wasn't writing or podcasting about wrestling before anymore, but I kind of wanted to do something on the Chapo Trap House and Delete Your Account and those other leftist podcasts, right, that really helped me deal with everything that was going on. I had a lot of stuff to say. I was mostly saying on Twitter, but that didn't feel like enough. So me, Jonathan, and his friend Jack Allison, who's a screenwriter in Hollywood, decided to start a struggle session together and start doing something with each other.
And then how long is that? Like, how has that show grown and maybe even changed or shaped in the amount of time that you've been doing it?
So it's grown a lot. It's become really popular. And one of the key things is idea we had from the start is like, so we're all leftists and we all are interested in popular culture and politics, but our focus was never to make the show necessarily just about politics. It was talking about politics through the lens of popular culture. Right. And because of that, we get a lot of listeners who aren't necessarily leftist or politically minded, but they see that we're talking about Star Wars and they feel like, something's wrong with Star Wars, and we have a analysis that they're not going to hear or get anywhere else when all the media is just telling them, oh, Star Wars is great, the Marvel movies are great, everything's great, everything's a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. We're saying something different, and then we talk about the economics behind it, the politics behind it, and we get people in that way. So in a sense, like our podcast, so we have a Patreon, right? And a lot of other people have Patrons, and we kind of have passed up some of the people who influenced us to start this because we're going at it in a way that's not explicitly political. Because, and it's as sad as it is to say, when Donald Trump stopped being president, people are going to care a lot less about politics. But people are still going to care about, movies and television and video games. So we feel like we made kind of a good choice to attack it from this angle instead of just being a politics, because people aren't going to turn it off as soon as a Democrat's back in the White House.
Yeah, that's my fear is the left will fall back asleep if he's out of there and they put a Democrat, especially if it's like a corporate Democrat. But I want to talk, because I also co-host a show called Comedy Film Nerds, and one of the things that I did like about the new Star Wars movie was the political commentary of, oh, they're the worst people in the universe. They're weapons dealers, that. So what was you, from a political standpoint, how did you view the Star Wars film, and how did you guys talk about it in Struggle Session?
So we're actually putting out an episode with a full commentary track to Star Wars. we did not like it. We didn't enjoy it. Because the thing is, we do care about aesthetics more. So I feel like a lot of leftists, they're kind of happy. Well, you see this with Star Wars. You see this with Black Panther. If it has kind of some of our messaging in it, then we elevate it. But like, that's not what the conservatives do. If a conservative is going to celebrate a movie, it's going to be a movie that's 100,000% on message with conservative values. But when it comes to progressives, the left, the broad left, like, we'll take any scraps we can get. And Struggle Session, we're not taking any scraps. We don't. Black Panther, Star Wars is not good enough. It's not leftist enough for us to give it a pass on the aesthetic aspect. Even if it was message, still like, want the movie to be good too. So we're taking down The Last Jedi. It's over. We actually had an episode called Star Wars is Dead, where we predicted that The Last Jedi, as it did, really didn't connect with fans for a lot of the way that other Star Wars movies have. So if you want to hear that hot take and get that good commentary, check out patreon.com/struggle session. We have a whole commentary track on it. I think even people who enjoy the film will enjoy the commentary that we give, because it just offers a new perspective. We had an episode about Black Panther where we had a debate about it. And even though a lot of people love that movie, they saw our critiques and are like, that's interesting. Even people who disagreed with it fundamentally still understood that we were approaching it from a thoughtful leftist perspective.
That's interesting, and I really applaud and appreciate that you guys come from that angle, because it's something that I've talked about a lot, especially when on this show on Political Vigilante, and because after reading Chris Hedges' Death of the Liberal Class, he really talked about how art in the 30s during the whole big labor movements was very political. It was extremely very socialist. It was very much calling out the evils of capitalism and calling out those that are in power. And now you're not allowed to do. I mean, stop bringing politics into everything. People say that to comedians, which is just like mystifying to me. Like, you don't know the history of comedy at all. And so it's good. I think it's good that you guys are doing that and coming from a different point of view. I was definitely more on I just love the movies and I think they're a lot of fun. And if they can put in some politics in there, I'm all for it, because so many of them are completely devoid of politics. But it's not a bad point of view. I don't know that I don't disagree with the why should we take table scraps things. And I think for me, what I would like to see more of is just let's just make a fucking all-out political action movie versus an action movie that has some politics sprinkled in it.
Yes. And the right has this, right? That's the thing. We're not asking. It's not asking for anything that the right doesn't have. Like they have a whole subgenre. I was at the movie theater the other day. I saw a poster for God's Not Dead 3. They made 3 of these movies, and those are just, propaganda for a specific subset of the right wing. And those movies get money. Those movies get financed. Those movies get made and put in theaters, which is a really big deal these days to actually get a film into theaters. Like Paramount with the Parents, they actually paid for that money, paid $50 million, to make that movie, and still sold it to Netflix because they didn't think it was worth putting in movie theaters. But when you see God's Not Dead 3 in movie theater, you have to say, all right, well, how much power does the left actually have in Hollywood in comparison?
Well, the argument that I would make, or the comment I would make, is the left doesn't have that much power because the corporate war machine has the power. The American propaganda. I mean, Hollywood is an arm of the American propaganda machine, saying, "Isn't it great?" I mean, when I watched Wonder Woman, which I really liked, and I should say that I liked it as a film and as a comic book fan, but I was very torn because on the one hand, it was oh great, it's empowering women and giving women this their own superhero finally on the big screen. She's the star. She's not sidekick. But then I was like, wow, it's also saying, hey, ladies, join the war effort, so much so that the ad playing ahead of the movie was that female Marine Corps ad where they show the little girl, she's bullied, and then she's playing rugby, and then she's in boot camp, and then she's, you know, in the war, and it's an ad designed at young women, hey, join up for the war. So I was like, wow, I guess this is sort of what the military-industrial complex equality looks like is, hey, women, you can go fight corporate wars now, too.
Yeah, so that's the funny thing, right? So Marvel did the same thing with Captain Marvel. She was trending on Twitter just yesterday, the new Captain Marvel movie, because they posted a picture of Allison Brie Larson with someone from the U.S. military, like a female pilot from the U.S. military. So that's part of that propaganda. And you said, like, Wonder Woman was the first female superhero that you see on the big screen, but of course she's not. Like, they had Supergirl, you had Resident Evil, you had Underworld, you had all these other female superheroes that have been kind of erased by both the Disney corporate machine, because Warner Bros. Too is a part of it as well. You know, Blade doesn't exist anymore. Black Panther is the first black superhero. And the interesting thing that I didn't realize until you brought it up is, like, so when you watch, like, the Resident Evil movies, it's like the CIA and the military are usually, like, the bad guys in those films, or at least part of it. Like, corporations are ultimately. Resident Evil is a movie about how evil a corporation is, that it, weapons manufacturer is, that it destroys the entire world. Or you have Underworld, where all the police, the military, all those forces are basically hunting down this small minority group. They're vampires, of course, and werewolves, but still they're the bad guys in those films. And so those films, those old action movies, are kind of regulated to being B movies, but when they become AAA movies, when they become the massive blockbusters that everybody has to care about, well, you get the Black Panther, and you have a white CIA agent as one of the good guys in that movie. Like that in the movie called Black Panther. Like, so you see what happens is even when we get those scraps right, like, it's going to, once you have $200 million involved in the film, there's going to be CIA involvement. There's going to be overlords. All the people we're fighting against, they're going to have their hands in it, because they're the only ones that have $200 million to make a movie. Now, there may be some hand waves to progressive ideals and identities besides white men. That'll happen too, but they're fine with that. They like black CEOs, they like female CEOs, they like gay CEOs. They're okay with that, as long as you stay the line as far as imperialism, capitalism, all of that goes.
That's such a great point. And I want to get into the 2018 here in a second, but that's such a great point. It's like Cornel West said that Obama was just the first black leader of the American empire.
Yes.
And that's what equality, deep state equality is I'll let you, of any ethnicity, any gender, as long as you play ball. Like, I'll give you that so it looks, the window dressing looks good. Like the thing I've said before on this show, and I've said it on the Jimmy Dore show, is like Obama's drones that killed poor people in the Middle East, they had rainbow flags on them. That was the difference between Trump's.
Yeah. That's the only difference is the window dressing, but it's still the same imperialistic violence. Even it's still white supremacist in nature, and even with a black president. So when Ta-Nehisi Coates made that article, Donald Trump is the first white president. No, he's just the next white president, and Obama was as much a white president in the way Ta-Nehisi Coates uses it as Donald Trump is. It's just the same it's a continuation. It's a continuum, Yeah. It may go this way a little bit or that way a little bit, but it's not any radical change between the two.
That's a great point. I want to get into this since you talked about, the movie with 200 and did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay. Sorry, it froze up for a sec. So you talk about like Black Panther when a movie has a $200 million budget or 250 or whatever the crazy budget was. Obviously, the CIA is going to be involved, and I really want to get into this. So in 2018, I just did a story. Lee Campus talked about this, that a bunch of Democratic nominees that are running in 2018, the primaries have already started, have their former CIA. And the way the Washington Post, of which of course, gives money, is owned by the CIA or whatever, the way they report it is all these people from the intelligence community are rising up to fight Trump because, he's a Russian operative or whatever. So, which is, to me, is complete bullshit. It's just the CIA manipulating. So how do you look at 2018 and with a lot of people? I mean, there's a lot of races, there's a lot of people running, and my fear is the corporate Democrats, and people on the left who aren't paying attention, neoliberals or whatever, will just go, yay, a Democrat beat a Republican, like Doug Jones barely beat a pedophile, and he's a corporate guy. So as we look at 2018, a lot of CIA operatives, there's some actual progressives running. This is kind of a broad question, but can the DNC overall be changed? And what are some of the races in 2018 that stand out the most to you that are significant?
So I haven't really been paying attention to too much the races because, like, the Democratic Party barely exists. Like, it's not a political party. Like, they have no power at any level except like the municipal level, and it's so like there's so much ground to make up. Like, I can't even like criticize like a former CIA operative running for a Democratic seat because they have to win every seat that they can possibly get. Like they have to run every race, and no matter how shitty the person is, they have to win every seat. Now, I'm not saying, what I will say is people should not get invested in someone shitty like Doug Jones, but it's like the Democrats are, if you have hope for the Democratic Party to come back to become at some point, it's like you almost can't get caught up into the minutia that actually matters at this point. It's like they have no power whatsoever in government in any real way, that like you gotta win all these state seats, these state legislatures, you gotta win, the House, the Senate. You got to do so much, and then you still have to wait to try and win the presidency. And it's like they're so far behind playing catch up. It's if you look at it as like a sport, it's like you're already down 50 points before the half. Like I can't get too involved into whether you get an extra yard on this play or not. Like, you just have to go for it. You can't really worry about that. So I haven't really gotten to, because I feel like it just takes so much energy to work. Like, all the people who should be expending that energy are mostly expending their time on Twitter yelling at people on their left. People like what's the name that had she was going to be chief of staff for Hillary Clinton, head of the not CPAC. I forget her name. I'll remember later. But there's so many people in the Democrat operatives, like Peter Dow or whatever. The people who run the DNC, the people who run the DCCC. Like, they're still spending their time like relitigating the 2016 primary that they won. Technically,
they stole. But they still
are relitigating it because they want to prove that they did nothing wrong and made no mistakes, even though Donald Trump is in power. So I haven't really checked in. Like, there's been some hope full spots. In Hawaii, the Chapo Trap House interview. I listened to the interview. Seems like a great guy, but he's one guy. Like, there were 3 races in Chicago recently that, all pretty far left, Democrats won, young left Democrats won, and they were all upsets. And so that's good to see. But it's like, or in Virginia, a guy named Lee, who's a DSA member, he won a local seat, but still, it's like a local seat. Like, that's the level we're at now. Like, where the only, like, if you're going to expend energy caring about, the Democratic Party, the only thing you can do is start, like, at the bottom level. Like, who's running in your district? Are they okay? What can you do to help them? Like, caring about the big picture is like, they have so much money to do that. They can hire people to do that. They chose, like, Obama, they had a 50-state strategy before. They decided not to do it again. They spent, $1 billion on Hillary Clinton's campaign and got crushed. They lost that election and then got crushed in all the other races, like even going down to the state level. So, like, I don't recommend this for everybody. I actually hope your listeners, they're all out there and still fired up to fight for the Democrats. But personally, I'm a little bit checked out of the Democratic Party as a whole, because it's just such a shit show that my energy can be focused on something else, even just my mental energy.
No, it's a fair stance to take. I think what to me is encouraging is not that Democrats are winning, that progressives are winning, because the corporate Democrat message, America clearly in 2016 said, go fuck yourself. Like, we're done. Like, but the progressive message, that's the thing. And it's something I've heard so many people say this, Noam Chomsky, Chris Hedges, if the Democratic Party were to actually go back to being a progressive workers' party versus they're just a bunch of pro-choice Republicans. I mean, they're just corporate, war, banks. They don't give a shit about the working people. If they were to go to a more working class platform and a progressive populist platform, they would never lose. What I'm hopeful for is that progressives are winning. Some are even running as Republicans, and of course, even some Greens and independents are starting. We're going to see those in the general. And so that's, to me, what I see. I'm not at all close to just as long as a Democrat wins, I'm done with that shit, because the corporate Democrats are why we have fucking Trump in the White House, because they made this situation happen by just bailing on what actual people on the left really want.
Yeah, and I was actually at the DNC in 2016, and I wrote an article about this, how it was like 2 different worlds. Like, you had the green zone, which was all, walled off, fenced off. You couldn't even get off, like, the train station without, like, a pass. Like, this is a public train station, but you had to get off like 2 stops ahead unless you had a pass into the convention. And on the outside of the convention, you had, as many people out there protesting, out there, support. Like, a lot of them were converting. There were more people like converting to the Green Party than there were people holding up Hillary signs. And so you had like these 2 worlds, and what boggled my mind at that point was like, why weren't the people inside the green zone trying to win over the people? If you're the head of the Democratic Party and you see all these disaffected people who were coming across the country to still support Bernie Sanders, even after when he built his campaign from nothing, even after he couldn't win, and they're still supporting him, why wouldn't you want to capture that energy and try to use it even for your own nefarious gain, right? Like, even if you don't care about these people, why would you deliberately antagonize them with the thing that happened with Nina Turner? Why would you bring Michael Bloomberg out there? Why wouldn't you? Even if I'm Hillary Clinton and I'm the most evil version of Hillary Clinton that anyone has ever imagined, I would still cynically want to use all those Bernie-crats in order to, maintain my own power, but they did the exact opposite at return. It was much more about just telling those people, fuck you, we don't need you, and we saw how it turned out.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Here's my answer to that, and then we're going to wrap it up. But the two reasons: one, just they're flat out arrogant. They're just arrogant assholes for starters. Yeah. And two, they can't get too close to progressives because progressives are going to cost them money. The Democratic Party would rather lose to Republicans than let progressives take it over, because if progressives take it over, then their corporate paydays are gone. The pharmaceutical companies. I mean,
yeah, some people have said that. Like that billionaire who was like, if I hear billionaire one more time, I'm not giving to the Democrats anymore.
Yeah. And that's the thing. They're terrified. And so because even in this, it's great that everyone's marching to end gun violence. I'm all for that. And they're really coming down on the Republicans. And okay, a lot of Republicans take money from the NRA, but the Democrats had power of everything from 2009 to 2011. Yeah. And some of them get money from the NRA, but at the very least, a lot of them just did nothing. Because it was like, I'm not going against the NRA because I'm a pussy or whatever, or I'm going to rattle my military backing people, my people at, So
gun control, torture, Guantanamo Bay, war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan. We can go down drone war. We can go down I guess drone war was something they ramped up deliberately, but whatever. So we can go down the list of all ICE. ICE is the big one. ICE is the one that really upsets me because everyone cares about ICE now that Trump is in charge. But these jackbooted, fascist, racist, white supremacist thugs were built up by Obama, built up under Obama. The record number of deportations happened under Obama. Millions of people taken out of the country. And I've talked to some of the people who've been deported by Obama. They don't think they feel like, and it's not, it doesn't matter who you get deported by, it's whether you're deported. It's not worse to be deported by Trump than Obama. It's the same thing. And I'm pretty sure if we could ask any of the people who were killed by drone bombs, that they would probably feel the same way too. But a lot of mainstream Democrats seem to have deluded themselves into thinking there are, better ways to die, better ways, kinder, gentler ways to be deported, but there aren't.
No, there aren't. That's a great point. Well, Leslie, thank you so much for being on the show. This was a great conversation, and I really appreciate it. Everybody out there, please check out Struggle Session. And thank you so much for being on the show and for making Gotham great again. Folks, go to the Patreon page. That's a great way to support the show. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.